After having lived in Helsinki for 7.5 years myself, seeing that Finland has been voted the happiest country in the world for the 8th year in a row makes me genuinely proud. That said, there are a few things I wish I had known before moving there. Little realities that shaped my experience in meaningful ways. So in case we haven't met yet, I'm Cristina. I'm a dentist that lives in Dresden, Germany. But before I moved to Dresden, as I said, I used to live in Finland for 7.5 years. And my relationship with Finland dates back to I think 23 years by now. So I fell in love with this country when I was 12 years old and then decided to move there after having graduated from high school. And what was supposed to be just 1 year actually turned into 7.5 years. I almost forgot to say that I put on my favorite Marimekko shirt for the occasion. So yeah, I feel very set up for this video. Okay, so what are the things I wish I had known before? Number one, friendships take time, but they last a lifetime. So Finnish people aren't really known for being the most talkative types of people. And while this is a cliche that is being repeated over and over again, I can say from experience that this cliche definitely holds some truth to it. So for example, when you're out and about, let's say in France or the UK, it is much more easy to actually start talking to all kinds of people. Whereas in Finland, if you started talking on the street to some people or even in a bar or a different type of social setup, people would think you're probably super crazy or drunk or American. At the same time, Finnish people aren't really about casual small talk, and they're very well aware of that, and they themselves make fun of it. So you have sayings like, if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything at all. So while it might be easier in other countries to make friends, once you've gained the trust of a Finnish person, you're probably set up for life. Because Finnish people really value loyalty, and once you've made it into their inner circles, they're not gonna let you go anymore. And that's really the beauty. And I have found this true from my experience of going to a Finnish university, but also from my work experience in Finland. So even though I haven't lived in Finland for almost as long as I have lived there myself, so 7 years, I'm still regularly in touch with my previous friends from work, but also university. Number two is the next cliche, and that is that the dark, long, cold winters are tougher to deal with than you would expect. I remember when I first experienced my Finnish winter, it was simply magical because I hadn't seen such large amounts of snow in a really long time. I never experienced what minus 30 degrees feel like. Spoiler alert, it feels like your face is falling off. And yeah, just this general cozy feeling, the darkness, the cold temperatures, the snow. As I said, it was just pure magic. But then you experience it the first time, then you maybe experience it the second time, and maybe the second time around it's still, you know, super magic and you love it. But then when it happens for the third time, it's usually when you start to think about things a bit differently. And this also happened with a lot of my foreign friends that came to live in Finland. So what happens is that you get really tired of it, and you also really start dreading the winter, because Finnish summertime is so short. It's usually over by the middle of August, and after that there's an autumn transition, but then winter starts relatively early, I would say around November, or even earlier than that. I would say around November. Then the first snow starts to fall, which is actually quite nice because it makes the city feel brighter again. But then what happens at, let's say, the end of February is that the snow starts melting. You think spring is coming. You see that your friends in Central Europe are starting to wear t-shirts and they're having the best times on the terraces. And you think the same thing is happening to Finland again. So the snow starts melting a little bit and you think there's hope inside, but then the temperatures start dropping again, more snow comes, and you know that you'll be married to your winter coat until basically May. And that's a long time. And that's when you start to think life is maybe too short to be living in winter all the time. And it really wears on your mood and energy. I know, I sound as if I'm full on confirming every stereotype that exists about Finland, but don't underestimate what this winter does to you. Number three, the language. So that's the thing. I went to Finland because I wanted to learn the language. So my motivation was entirely different from the rest of the courses, for example, that I went to. Prior to moving to Finland, I actually had private tuition in Finnish when I was 15 years old in Berlin. And that sort of set the basis, though of course I was nowhere near fluency before I moved to Finland. However, it was one of my big dreams to learn the language. And so I was super happy and super eager when I went to University of Helsinki for the language courses. Though it's quite quite interesting because those courses are usually filled with people that came to Finland due to work and or because they have a Finnish partner. And so the general vibe of those courses is kind of mixed, though I was a super excited puppy dog in my early 20s and I was just so happy to finally be at a proper Finnish course. So am I fluent in Finnish? Unfortunately not. And I have to say this is probably one of the only things in my life where I can generally say that I failed at something, because the intention was there and the motivation was definitely there. So then what happened? I think in general what you should know about the Finnish language is that it is absolutely learnable and it shouldn't hold you back from moving there should that be your wish. And you can be fluent in Finnish, and some people actually achieve it, though I have to say that the people who are really fluent in Finnish are the ones who maybe moved to Finland in the early 90s when services really weren't readily available in English and you had to speak the language no matter what. So what makes it so difficult to learn Finnish then? I think it's a combination of two different factors that actually make it quite tricky. And number one is that it's very easy to get away with speaking English because Finnish people are fluent in English. There's rarely a person that you come across in Finland that doesn't speak English, and that person is still probably super conversable in English. Actually, I don't think I've ever experienced a situation where I wasn't able to speak English. I'm still thinking. It's actually absurd because you can go anywhere and at least the basics are going to be there. Whereas, for example, in Germany, there are parts where you can absolutely forget anybody speaking English, though I have to say that that has improved over time as well. So yeah, that's the number one difficulty, is that you know that the person that is in front of you is probably very likely and probably very willingly to speak in English to you. And if you combine that with my second point, that is, you know, the older you get, the more difficult or the more unwilling you are to make mistakes when you're speaking a foreign language. Because the older we get, the more self-conscious we get, the more unwilling we are to actually make a fool of ourselves. If you combine those two factors together, it actually creates a perfect storm for never really learning the language, which is a shame. And I have to say that I haven't completely given up on the project. Generally, I would say that I understand the language quite well. And to this day, I listen to Finnish radio and I also listen to some Finnish music, and you know, I'm friends with Finnish people, so on social media I see all kinds of posts written in Finnish, and I do mostly understand what it's about, though the speaking part for myself is something that I was never really able to develop proficiently. So I was thinking, now that I have all this time and I'm not, studying anymore, I'm not writing my dissertation, now that I'm basically as free as a bird again, I was thinking of taking it up again. Let's see. I'll keep you posted. Let's see. Fingers crossed. Best wishes and prayers. Coming to my next point, number 4, Finland's efficiency and tech-forward culture sets a high bar. So this isn't really a problem or something that I wish I had known before, but I will tell you this, if you have lived in Finland and then moved back to your home country, it can be quite irritating to experience how low developed things are. And I'm talking from a German perspective, but honestly, moving back to Germany made me almost feel like I'm moving to the desert, because things here in comparison to Finland are so slow, so underdeveloped, so inefficient, and I have to say that it's really frustrating. So when I moved to Finland, I was honestly amazed at the efficiency of this country. So everything bureaucratic you can think of, you can basically do online, which is something that's absolutely unheard of in Germany. Like, I remember, when was it, 10 years ago, it would be already so normal to get prescriptions, for example, for medications sent to your insurance card rather than it being printed out on a piece of paper. Now in Germany, we're at a point where you have the same, which is 10 years later. So that's just one example, but basically anything you can think of can be done online. So you get really spoiled. And I remember I never really understood it when my friends in Finland said things like, okay, the weather is not that great in Finland. Finnish people are the way that they are. It feels far away, but things in Finland work. And I never really understood what they meant by that until I moved back to Germany. I was like, okay, I see it now. And this is stressful to me for this day. So if you are in Finland, or if you think about moving to Finland, don't think that this is how the world operates. Finnish people really set a really high bar. And finally, my 5th point, nature is everywhere, and it's not just a pastime, it's a lifestyle. So I would consider myself as a city girl. I've always lived in a city, and even though the cities I have lived in are super green in terms of parks and woods nearby, Finnish people really have a different understanding and a different appreciation towards the nature they're surrounded by. So for example, in Helsinki, I was super lucky to live close by to the Baltic Sea. You have so many lakes nearby. There's so many woods that you can go to, and Finnish people really know their nature really well. They know which berries to pick, which mushrooms to hunt, and just in general how to interact with nature or how to read nature. And this appreciation paired with the eagerness to being outside and to spend time outside is just super special and something that I really miss. So whether it's lakes, whether it's forests or saunas, being outside is an integral part in Finnish culture and part of their well-being. Another example is how Finnish people spend their summertime in their summer cottages. And the way my host parents have taught me this tradition is that Finnish, and what I've seen also over the years, is that Finnish people actually take pride in their summer cottage being very remote from civilization. And they keep bragging about how basic their summer cottage is. Like, for example, it doesn't have electricity, it doesn't have running water, it's very remote, you basically can't reach it. And those are all points that make Finns super happy. And experiencing how little you need in the middle of nature is super fascinating. And Finns are very efficient at that as well, of course. So yeah, that was a quick overview on a few things that I maybe wish I had known before. Let me know if you're planning to move to Finland. Let me know if you've lived in Finland, what your experience was like. Hopefully you got something out of this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.